I'm Christian Boerger, Regional Director of Revenue Management for Europe, Middle East and Africa for Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. And I'm also an advisory board member for HSMAI Europe. And total revenue management was selected as a topic because we sincerely feel that moving forward, one, especially the revenue leaders in a hotel, should not only focus on rooms revenue management, but also on other areas that are contributing to profit lines or providing revenue streams to the hotel. I would say people wouldn't necessarily expect total revenue management. It is a practice that needs to be implemented in order for the hotels to further maximize, to further optimize their revenue streams and everything that really literally has an impact on their bottom line profit. Total revenue management is important in today's times because if looking at the spa, if looking at food and beverage, if looking at function space, in certain parts, in certain hotels, looking at it, they provide up to half of the overall revenue of a hotel. Elements involved, I think everything starts with the data collection. So you have to collect the data first. You have to analyze the data to actually understand where you are standing in the process. You have to have essentially a forecasting procedure in place. You then, moving further afield, can looking at software solutions, ideas built around that in order to kind of further using those analytics or the takeaways that you've taken from the data points collected and putting that into a process in order to maximize the revenues in each of those different areas. In order to implement this in a hotel, I think the most important area or the key aspect is really to get the senior management buy-in. So once I have the senior management buy-in, I can then move along and define my areas that I want to look at first. I think the biggest mistake of hotel operators is that they're going to try to throw everything at it, looking at all of the disciplines, all of the areas at the same time. So it's really about getting the revenue leaders of a hotel, which does not only include the revenue manager or the director of revenue management, it also includes the key division heads, the key department heads from food and beverage outlets, departments, meeting space, in events, director of the spa, sales and marketing director and general manager together, and kind of evaluating, okay, where could we make the biggest difference and what is probably the easiest to implement. I would probably say, depending on the operational side and obviously on the volume of business in each of those areas, it's then up to that team to decide which of those areas they're going to move forward with first. And then the next point would be, how do we go about data caption, data collection? Management buy-in, you have the data collection, and from there on, there is really not anything that is predefined, because this whole discipline of total revenue management, or the understanding thereof, is still comparable new, which means that there's not a software system in place now that does it for us. We know from a rooms aspect, we have a revenue management system, such as Ideas, such as Easy RMS, who do certain aspects of that management optimization process for us. They do not exist in that elaborate way for other areas as yet. So I think that's really where there will be a lot of manual labor, manual input, manual spreadsheet work as well involved in the beginning in order to kind of define, okay, what does work best. And since we're starting literally for most hotels at zero, it's fairly easy to make a difference from that point onwards, I think. Once you have defined, okay, which area we're focusing on, and how do we go about the data collection. Once we have the data collection, put it in an agreeable format, how is it going to be interpreted, who is responsible for interpreting it, and then taking the necessary next steps, as in strategic decisions from it, to put into place, and then hopefully having that required or anticipated impact on the hotel operation and ultimately on the hotel profit. Some of the key takeaways from the conference, the HSMAI conference in London for the hotels, will be that they get certain tools that they can use, that they can implement at their properties, especially as most of them, especially the independents, might not have necessarily the resources like that the larger operators do to come up with a full-blown technical solution to this specific challenge, which is in essence the data collection first. And it also should help them to better assess the data that they will be eventually able to capture and how to then draw the appropriate strategic decisions out of it. So the HSMAI conferences are really a great platform for people not only from hotel chains but also independent properties to come together to learn firsthand from their fellow colleagues, including the HSMAI advisory board members, of how best to go about introducing total revenue management into their individual properties. What are the necessary action steps? What is the sequence of those steps? And using appropriate tools, basic tools to begin with, that they can use pretty much immediately and share then with their fellow revenue team or revenue champions on property. So I would say the perfect audience would of course include the revenue managers, the director of revenue of any property, potentially reservations managers if they are sort of the number twos involved to a certain degree, but most certainly also sales managers, director of sales and marketing, and even talking about senior management in terms of general manager or hotel manager, because ultimately the revenue director is only as strong and as capable in pushing certain changes through as much as he gets the senior management buying, as I mentioned right at the beginning. And if he hasn't got that, he will only be able to go so far. I think the great thing about HSMAI conferences is really that it brings people of different disciplines together. So we're not just looking at revenue managers or director of revenue management, we're also looking at people from marketing, people from sales, and really they bring all of their concerns on the table, and everything will be incorporated into finding a common solution of moving forward and ultimately taking this back to the hotels and implementing it. And while the conference that we've had in London was focused on total revenue management, there are others that talk about the correlation between marketing, between e-marketing, e-commerce to revenue management, also looking at what are the important aspects of the RFP negotiation process and revenue management. So there's a lot of synergies between sales and marketing and revenue management there as well. So really it's about synergies between different disciplines, between different areas in a hotel, and then bringing them all together on that common platform that HSMAI provides, and then using this, very powerful tool and taking the relevant information, the relevant tools back to the individual properties. I see total revenue management as a fantastic opportunity for any type hotel operator, hotel provider. It is still, in my eyes, somewhat underused, which means that you're starting from a very low base, which means the actual impacts that it will have, that it has to have, will be tremendous. And therefore I believe that we will see a lot of technology companies as well to jump on the bandwagon here in trying to getting their act together and working on the actual software and technical solutions to assist the hotels, the providers, the suppliers to get to that goal.